Mr. Chairman. Secretary Ross, I know from your testimony that you take the administration of the census very seriously, and part of that duty is to administer it in a non-political, nonpartisan way. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Should political parties and campaign politics ever factor into what is asked of every household in the country on the census?
No political party has asked us to do anything on the census. We have had a request, as everyone is aware, from the Department of Justice to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census.
Thank you. The reason I asked the first questions is because I was very disappointed to see yesterday that the Republican Party campaign to re-elect the president put out an appalling email specifically noting that the president wants a new citizenship question added to the census and seeking campaign supporters to weigh in if they are, quote, on his side, unquote. Do you disavow this campaign email? Has the president or anyone else in the White House directed you to add this or a similar question to the 2020 census?
I'm not familiar with the email. I'm not part of the Republican campaign committee, so I've not seen it. I've heard about it this morning. We are responding solely to the Department of Justice's request, not to any campaign request, not to any other political party request. We are listening to stakeholders. Many have written to us, some have come in to talk with me, and we have initiated a whole series of phone calls to stakeholders on both sides of the question. We will come to a conclusion prior to March 31st, which, as I understand it, is the date by which we must submit the questions to the Congress. We will comply with that date, and we are going very, very carefully and very thoroughly analyzing all aspects of the request and its implications for the census were it to be approved and were it not to be approved.
Thank you. I'm not a lawyer and certainly not a constitutional lawyer.
Neither am I, sir. I'm a civilian.
Okay. But the Constitution is pretty clear to me, even though I'm not a lawyer. Count the peoples within the states, not the citizens. And some federal agencies bring fear to people that are here as immigrants who were not born here. And the purpose of the census should be to increase the count every 10 years, make it better. This question troubles us a lot. Mr. Secretary, in March, staying on that line, on March of 2017, the department sent to Congress a list of subjects planned for the 2020 census. Then in December of 2017, the Justice Department wrote to the acting director of the Census Bureau asking that the Census Bureau include on the 2020 census questionnaire a question regarding citizenship. Many advocates and stakeholders have expressed strong concerns that including such a question will discourage many communities from participating in the 2020 census. Question, Mr. Secretary, since this topic was not included in the March 2017 report to Congress on the topics to be covered in the 2020 census, may we assume that the Commerce Department itself is not supportive of adding this question? Secondly, would you agree with me that it would be totally inappropriate to include any question that has not been thoroughly tested in the lead up to the census?
We have not yet made a decision on the Department of Justice request. It's a very big and very controversial request. We're taking it very seriously, but have not yet made a decision. I would like to address, though, what steps are we doing to make the 2020 census more accessible to people whose first language is not English, perhaps don't even have English as a language, what we're doing to call their attention to the census, to its importance, and to the privacy of their responses. So if I may, I'd like to describe a few of the steps that we're taking. First of all, we are using many more languages in the census than was used in 2010. 2010 used as an alternative to English, Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, and Russian, 5 languages. We're including those 5 plus Arabic, Tagalog, Polish, French, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, and Japanese. That's 12 languages versus 7. That new list should cover 95.3% of all those who are not English speakers in the country. So it's, for all practical purposes, everyone. The Q&A, paper questionnaire, and mailing materials, every one of them will be immediately in both Spanish and in English. The additional support materials will be in 59 languages, including the ones that I mentioned before. And the ads and partnership material also will be quite multilingual. We also will have in the call centers multilingual people able to converse with folks in their native tongue. So those are the things we're doing to try to make language less of a barrier to people's responses. In terms of media, we are going to have far more, hundreds of millions of dollars more spending on the communications program, which is organized by Y&R. It will be multilingual. It, in fact, has included among its subcontractors firms who specialize in media for non-English language citizens and residents. Further, we are increasing the number of partnership specialists. Last time in 2020, there was 700 partnership specialists hired by the census. We will have 1,000 partnership specialists. The partnership concept is one that embraces local community organizations, health organizations, local governments, all sorts of things. And we have already signed up local governments that constitute well over 90% of the population to cooperate with us. In addition, for the first time, we will be having kiosks in the U.S. Postal Service branches. I don't know how well you can see these, but there are big banners, 14 by 70 inches going up, promoting the census. There will be an instruction booth that one can access on a computerized basis. There are table stands which will hold handhelds so that people can fill out the form. So we're doing everything to make this census more accessible to everybody, regardless of native tongue or inclination. We're working very, very hard at it, and I think it will produce good responses. In addition, for the first time, people have internet capability of responding. They're not required to respond by internet, but it's an additional facility. So now you can respond by internet, by telephone, or by the physical written document. And if all that fails, even after repeated mailings and repeated phone calls, we will have door-to-door enumerators coming multiple times. So as a former enumerator myself, I can promise you, I understand the process, I understand its importance, and we will get it done.
Thank you, and I appreciate all that you are doing to make this census a better census than any other before. Let me just close by saying this very briefly. We may have in this country, in fact we do, a immigration issue to deal with. And it's going to take both parties to come together to resolve it, to fix what is broken. But I don't think the census should be used to create more division, more fear, more hiding from people who should be forward and being counted. So when you make your decision, I shouldn't tell you that you're a tough guy. Don't be afraid to tell somebody, have you read the Constitution? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Serrano.